Hey there, pirates! Welcome aboard the Anime No Me channel. We can already start by saying with some weight that this isn't just about who's strong or who's trending right now. It's about who makes sense narratively to step into a conflict of almost legendary proportions. I think Oda's been dropping hints since Dressrosa that this fleet was going to be massively important later on. It's no coincidence that the farewell of the Grand Fleet at that banquet came with a narration saying they'd one day cause a huge event. Maybe that future is now, and maybe that event is the rebellion against Imu, the strange and powerful being who seems to have ruled everything from the shadows since the Void Century. Let's start with the revolutionaries, because honestly, there's no way they're sitting this one out. Dragon's already near Mary Joss, cutting off supply routes. The commanders are fully mobilized, and after what happened with Sabo, things have passed the point of no return. I think Dragon may have been planning this for years, waiting for the perfect moment to take on the Celestial Dragons, and especially Imu, even if he doesn't know exactly who or what Imu is yet. He probably senses something unnatural behind the empty throne. It might sound like a stretch, but I wouldn't be surprised if Dragon's been holding back a trump card this whole time, maybe even a devil fruit of his own, that he's saving for this final showdown. The revolutionaries joining Luffy's fleet wouldn't be about a formal oath of loyalty like the others, but something bigger, an acknowledgement that Luffy is the new world they've been trying to build all along. I think the revolutionaries will be the first to move. Not just because they're already near Mary Joyce, but because they've had the longest standing motivation in this story, tearing down the system. Sabo might be the one to break the gates down with his flaming fist and that hockey that's now on leap of faith mode, freeing prisoners, going head to head with an admiral, while Dragon shows up in silence, shattering walls with nothing but wind. It's likely the commanders will be taking on the Seraphim directly, or even some new secret government weapons, and maybe Ivankov creates an opening where no one thought possible. What would be amazing is seeing the revolutionaries not just attacking, but coordinating an evacuation of innocent civilians from Mary Joss, people who have no business being caught in that golden hell. And here's where an interesting detail comes in. Sabo. He's already an emotional link to Luffy. What if Sabo is the true catalyst that brings everyone together? Like maybe he meets Luffy in Elbaf after the whole possessed giants mess, tells him everything he saw and lived through in Mary Joyce, and they decide right then, it's time. Then Dragon shows up, no fanfare, just wind swirling around him, and boom! The fleet grows. Now onto the Heart Pirates. This one might be controversial because everyone thinks Law split from Luffy, and that the alliance back in Punk Hazard and Dressrosa is ancient history. But I think that might have just been the beginning. Law's always been kind of a loner, calculating, but he's got a deeper sense of justice and destiny than he lets on. And now, after everything that went down at Hachinosu with Blackbeard and all, maybe Law realizes he can't reach his goal alone. If he's still with his crew, even if they're hurt, even if the sub's trashed, he might show up again in Elbaf or some allied base and rejoin Luffy. Not because of a political alliance, but because he trusts him. And Bepo would be there too, and John Bart, and all those people who've already suffered so much. Maybe Law sees Luffy as the only real chance to bring down the world government for good. He's always had a special hatred for the system because of Corazon. And if he learns about Imu, maybe that hatred ignites all over again. As for Kid's pirates, this is where it gets even more interesting. Kid lost his ship, his crew, his pride, and as far as we know, he lost badly to Shanks. But Oda doesn't kill off dreams that easily. I think Kid still has a role to play, and maybe that defeat was what puts him back on Luffy's path. They started out kind of as rivals, both setting off at the same time, both trying to be king of the seas, but with completely different methods. Now, with Kid down, maybe he realizes that going solo was the mistake, and then Luffy, being Luffy, reaches out. Not out of pity, but because deep down he knows Kid hates the system too. Their rivalry turns into an alliance, not a formal, I'm joining your fleet, but something more organic, like let's tear this castle down together, then we settle things later. Now let's talk about the giants of Elbaf, who are becoming more and more central to the story. Oda's made it clear that Elbaf is going to be the setting for something huge. And if the giants are inspired by Norse mythology, where Ragnarok marks the end and the beginning, maybe that's exactly what's coming, and maybe Luffy is the symbol of that new beginning. The giants respect strength, but they also respect heart. If Luffy manages to free Brogy and Dory from Imu's curse, or fight off the demons created through Domi Reversi, that wouldn't just impress them, it would forge an eternal bond. Maybe Jarul, who's older and wiser, sees Luffy as a kind of chosen one, someone capable of uniting the world like it was before the Void Century, and it wouldn't just be Brogy and Dory joining, it'd be the entire Elbaf army, with their massive ships, insane weapons, and a war cry that echoes like thunder. Honestly, that would be too beautiful not to happen. Now, the Red-Haired Pirates. This one's tricky because Shanks has always been that mysterious figure. He shows up when it's convenient, but never fully commits to anything. But what if now's the time he finally has to choose a side? We've already seen him meeting with the Gorosei, which was weird. And maybe he did that to get a better sense of what's really going on behind the scenes. Maybe he knows about Imu, or at least suspects something. And maybe he believes Luffy is the only one who can defeat that entity. If that's the case, maybe this is the moment he gives his final push, a full circle moment. He gave Luffy the hat, believed in him from the start, and now he might lead his own fleet to attack Mary Dwys from the other side, or from the sky, or with some impossible plan, just like his style. I think it would be deeply symbolic, even emotional, to see Shanks, Ben Beckman, Yasopp, and the rest finally fighting alongside Luffy, even if it's just for this final act. And then there's the Redhaired Pirates, led by Hancock. That's an easy one. Hancock has already shown she'd do anything for Luffy. More than that, she's already stood up to the world government on her own to protect her island. Now, knowing Imu might be behind it all, she could see this as a chance to take down the root of the problem. The Amazons are fierce, proud warriors with their own fleet, unique weapons, and haki that rivals anyone's. I don't think Hancock would hesitate to join Luffy's fleet. And maybe she even brings key reinforcements from the Calm Belt, or from old world government islands that have rebelled. Sounds crazy, but maybe her sisters bring some secret weapon, or leftover Vegapunk tech that was kept hidden. Now, if we stop and think about how massive this fleet is becoming, it goes way beyond ships. It represents ideas. Each of these alliances brings a different piece of the world. Revolution, knowledge, tradition, pride, love, freedom. And Luffy, at the center of it all, not as a traditional king, but as someone who draws others in just by being himself. Maybe that's the key to defeating Imu, not brute strength, but true unity. I think Oda's going to show that Luffy's greatest weapon has always been this, the power to make real allies. And this is just the beginning. There's still Vegapunk, the Seraphim, and maybe even characters we haven't met yet, or ones long forgotten who come back in full force. Maybe even Enel. Who knows? But one thing's for sure. The fleet is growing. And when the Straw Hat flag rises before the sacred castle, all these names will answer the call. Not as subordinates, but as brothers and sisters. And in the middle of it all, Luffy's crew, the real Straw Hats, will be in the heart of the storm. Zoro might take on one of the Gorosei with his new sword, maybe even Yoru's twin, and prove his promise to Mihawk wasn't in vain. Sanji might end up saving an entire island while complaining and smoking. Usopp could finally reunite with his dad. Robin uncovers the final truth. Frankie activates some hidden function in the Sunny. Nami leads the fleet as the supreme navigator. Jinbei handles the sea routes. Chopper heals the wounded. Brook soothes the dying with his music. And Luffy, with the truest smile in the world, faces Imu head-on. And Imu, maybe he or she or they, finally reveals their true form. A mix of king and monster, a fusion of everything the government tried to keep hidden. Maybe the Domi Reversi is just a teaser. Maybe the power they use isn't from a devil fruit, but from the earth itself. And maybe the final blow isn't a punch or a scream, but simply the act of tearing out the last page of an old book and saying, now our story begins. And so, with all these pieces in place, the Great Straw Hat Fleet takes shape. Not as an army of soldiers, but as a symbol of everything Luffy stands for. Freedom, friendship, trust, and that ridiculous stubbornness that always made him seem like a fool, but in the end, always saved the world. Maybe the battle isn't the end. Maybe it's just the start of something new. A world with no empty thrones, no castles in the clouds, no shadows pulling the strings. A world where every flag is raised by choice. And if that world is born, it will have started with that rubber boy who dreamed of becoming king, and with a fleet made of dreams, chaos, and heart. That was today's content. We hope you liked it and want to share your opinion on the subject. Don't forget to share the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and stay amazing.